So good morning everyone, welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. Abandoning everything includes the most important aspect, which is what you call yourself. The character, with its needs, its prejudices, preferences, opinions, dreams, hopes. Okay. So once again, good morning, everyone. Just reminding you that we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. The number appears on the comments, on the channels. Here on YouTube, maybe not available on this one because, well, I'm doing on the cell phone. Not sure, but okay. So, Laurence, what other tools are there to dismantle character faster than through meditation? I'm a seeker. I don't know for well-being or for truth. It seems to me, in any case, that well-being is no longer enough because it's always subject to external conditions. Now, what I know is that in this world I'm not happy. Well, I'm not looking for happiness because I realize that it doesn't exist anywhere outside of yourself. But then what is it? Where is it? The discomfort is so great that I would like to disappear. It is an escape because the suffering is unbearable. So yes, I'm looking for liberation and nothing else. Even if my mind doesn't want to make an effort, that will be difficult. How can I go about it? How not to kill the life in me? That's a nice question. Thank you for your answer and your presence. So, first of all, this sentence, the discomfort is so great that I would like to disappear. It is an escape because suffering is unbearable. So yes, I'm looking for liberation. Well, might be, but as long as the motivation is escaping suffering, it's not enough. Because the desperation to escape suffering comes from the clear conclusion that this is real, it exists, it is bad, so it needs to be overcome. So it means you're entangled in the dream. And from this, it is difficult to go beyond. A lot of clarity has to come first. So, to be a seeker of truth, you need to understand that without suffering, it's impossible. And it is your beliefs that are the fruit of your suffering. And going beyond those beliefs, it will bring suffering also. So suffering is unavoidable. Either you are suffering to enhance, to feed the structures of your delusion, or you are suffering to dissolve those structures, but suffering will be there. And as long as suffering is something that is a pinpoint, it will be difficult or even impossible to go beyond it, because that's the point where you're not willing to go beyond, because you're there not to suffer. So how could you be there and suffering? So what other tools are there to dismantle the character? Well, we cannot call it tools. As long as we call it tools, it is not dismantling the character. It is being used by the character. This is something a little bit difficult to understand, because spiritual practice, it is something that you dive into, that you surrender to more and more of yourself. A tool is something that you use to a purpose, it's outside of you, and you use it to accomplish something. But in real spiritual practice, what can be accomplished is your own disappearance. So this understanding is very common. People get into spiritual practice, but they fail to understand that the spiritual practice is there to eliminate them, not to make them reach somewhere. Because as you're trying to reach somewhere, there's nothing wrong with you. All that illusion, all of that is perfect. So how can you go beyond yourself if you're outside of your spiritual work, if you're not the focus of your spiritual work? So there's a lot of confusions, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of twists in perception that eventually need to be corrected. But let's look at the question. Besides than just through meditation. Well, just through meditation comes from an understanding that meditation is mild. And this is because probably either spiritual practice is very superficial, very little time, and even that time is serving other values, or the rest is so against the spiritual practice, the meditation practice, that it doesn't bring fruits. Because if there was a clear vision about what is meditation, the just through wouldn't come out this way. But let's look at the broader picture. Meditation is part of a context. And usually what people do is they take up their lives, they leave it as they are, and they include meditation on it. So every other aspect, every other investments, worldly investments that were there, they continue. And they insert meditation on it, but this is for liberation. But for 99.9%, this liberation is still a better aspect of what they expect through their worldly investments. Because it is happiness. And happiness, there's no such thing as worldly happiness or spiritual happiness. The quest is for happiness, period. So this separation is there usually. So they insert meditation there, and everything else more or less continues the same. But meditation happens in a context. And to practice meditation, you sit quiet, close your eyes, focus on one technique, and you don't do anything else. So in your available period, you have more or less 18 hours available of wakefulness, in the wakeful state. So in this 20 hours, this 18 hours, you were investing towards your happiness, because usually that's what you think you're doing. So as you sit for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, so on, this is taking the time from the other investments. You cannot do two things at the same time. Usually, the understanding more or less is that even meditation is a way to reach those goals, those worldly goals. Even if you're not making the conscious relationship between them, this is what is happening subconsciously. But let's forget about that. Even with this vision, intense meditation brings its fruits. It's unavoidable. So if you're intensifying your meditation, you're taking investment from other areas, and conflict will come. Decisions will have to be made, because meditation is something that you need to keep on increasing. The more you increase it, the more it reduces to the other. So a clash comes in. It's unavoidable unless you're clarified and you've already gone through this and you already made the decisions that I'm going to talk about in a few moments. Besides that, you're creating a tension, and eventually you will have to decide to leave certain worldly investments behind and focus more on meditation, or focus less on meditation and increase the other investments. Because eventually, meditation is part of a context where you have already given your life to the process of liberation. Your whole day is around this purpose, so you're not wasting time with worldly investments. You're focusing more and more completely on meditation. And whatever clash comes, your decisions always reflect the same desire for liberation. So whatever comes in conflict with your practice of meditation, it is put aside. Together with this, besides abandoning all these structures, and that's a very important part, understanding the importance that they play as sources of food and nurturing for this character, identifying the needs of this character, and you yourself start cutting them. As you start cutting them, alongside with intense meditation, chaos breaks loose. The transformative kind of chaos, the liberating kind of chaos, and you will have to endure it without doing anything to establish your so beloved circumstantial peace. So this is the way you gradually conquer your dependencies on these external structures that feed the belief of reality. So meditation is part of a context, a spiritual context. And, well, the amount of concentration needed is so big, that you will find it impossible to conciliate it with something else apart from these processes. And if you find it easier to conciliate, well, probably you have no idea what I'm talking about. And the mentality of a seeker of truth, as he experienced suffering, is not about fear. He doesn't want to kill himself. No, he knows that suffering is giving him the clear image of what is the value of what is called reality, what is being called reality. And that's not of the nature of what I'm looking for. This is the clarity. The only thing that makes you subside in all these structures is the beliefs you have, that you're dependent, that there will be happiness there if you improve a little bit, if you change this and that, if you meditate more. Not like a transformation thing, a dissolution act, but of kind of improvement or how do you call that? Like a reward, like a reward. Oh, I was a good boy, good girl, then I'll be rewarded with liberation / happiness. And that's not really the case. So make no mistakes about it. If you're serious, well, and if you don't know anything else, understand this. Trusting your mind is the last thing you want to do, because your mind is the beacon of illusion. And it will move you around to keep you entangled in illusion. So if you don't have anything else, well, if you have to choose with something that your mind likes or something that your mind dislikes, well, choose the one that it dislikes. Because if you're wired to protect your own illusion, that which your mind will not like, well, surely it's not fitting very well in your personal scheme of things. And without that context, meditation is very small, because, like I've explained in previous videos, the most important thing is it's not the spiritual practice in itself, not the meditation as a tool apart. It is the right motivations and right attitude. This is the most important thing. So, the mind doesn't want to make an effort. Of course not. It is a lazy one. So, whatever characteristics are found in the mind, the right attitudes must become present to train it to be a useful tool in your work for liberation, and not something that makes decisions, but a tool. Because it doesn't matter what, it matters in a sense, what kind of illusion, what kind of characteristics are there. And it matters in the same, not in the sense of comparing it with someone else, but in the sense of knowing more or less which steps need to be taken. So if I have a lazy mind, I have to put it to work intensely until that laziness disappears. For example. So these are things that are very important. And it's not about meditation, it's about what are you dedicating your life to, dedicating exclusively. So many people say, oh, you don't need to be that radical. Of course, if you're not thirsty or just a little bit thirsty, just drink a little bit of water. But if you're really, really thirsty, that little bit of water will taste nothing. You will need a bigger one. These words are for those who are very, very thirsty for liberation. For the others, I have nothing to say. They don't have anything to listen also. So I have not yet clarified that I'm ready to commit myself totally to the path of liberation. Choice. If I'm ready or not to commit myself to the path of liberation. Where there is choice, there is little amount of thirst. So the suffering is not clear yet, so there's addiction into suffering, or else it would be clear already. So when it's not clear, these sentences that say, oh, I cannot bear any more suffering, I don't want it anymore, this is not quite correct. Because you're still depending on these cycles of suffering, and suffering is probably the most important thing in your life, even if you think it isn't. And it justifies many, 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 many other things. So it's addiction. There's this series of videos that I made long ago the title is Igniting the Sacred Fires. There is, with French subtitles and Portuguese subtitles also. Not sure if there's good subtitles in other languages, because there's sometimes automatic ones, and they help, but sometimes, well. And there's 3 videos there just about suffering. And that explains that relationship with suffering and your illusion, and how it is one of the most important things for you, the maintenance of that suffering. Check it out if you want. You talk about, I believe certainly, you talk about the dream, but this real world, always, my bills always come, and if I don't pay, I end up in jail. I'm fine, so I'm in prison where I have to confirm myself, otherwise I die. Well, who made those bills, and for which purpose? Many people live in many different ways. Just because you observe around and you call that your reality doesn't mean that it's a reality. There are many, many ways of life, and depending on your values, your investments, and your decisions, you will see whatever is around you. Whatever is around you. And for the seeker of truth, the real seeker of truth, there is always, always a way, a path. So those bills didn't appear out of nowhere. And if your imagination doesn't allow you to see, to visualize something that, a different context where none of those things were needed, that's because it doesn't fit your illusion. That's because your levels of attachment to where you are, they are very big. So the seeker of truth, as he becomes a seeker of truth, he has the calling, and he understood a few things, and he's reached the point that despite my difficulties, liberation is what I want. So the first step is not to transform things, or it's to intensify his meditation, giving the whole time he has available for it. First, creating more time available. And by doing that, trying to get even more time. To make his process, spiritual process, alive. He should find guidance, should find his master, surrender to it, and give his life to liberation only. And in this context, everything is meditation. The time that you spend sitting, the time that you are standing, everything is meditation. Everything is the spiritual fire. Without it, it's almost nothing. Okay. So I'm using the laptop to see the WhatsApp messages. So I won't be able to send a recorded one to let you know, but I'm writing here. Okay. A path started 8 years ago with intensity from the beginning. I reorganized my life in order to dedicate myself to the truth, abandoning all illusions. This is my first goal today. I maintain a few sessions of work and I pay attention to silence. Silence brings me into a kind of a coma, as if I had just had a general anesthetic before an operation. You have to make an effort to come back, and often an unexplained feeling pulls me out like a vortex that spits me out. I stay there, I don't move. Okay. Silence engulfs everything, and it's very, very powerful. I have to open my eyes a little sometimes. It's so powerful. What can you tell me? Well, why do you have to make an effort to come back? Why are you coming back? Why do you have to open your eyes? Well, the answer is simple. You have reorganized your life according to the vision you had previously, and silence is calling, but you're not allowing it to swallow you completely because you want to survive. It's like you want to drink from that silence, but still survive. And if you're not pulling yourself, something pulls you out, spits you out. And that is the same thing, that individual character, which is still there, pristine, wants to feed from silence, doesn't want to dissolve from silence. And as he's being pulled too much inward, the fears that he is carrying spits him out. It's not possible for dissolution. So what I said previously, the context, it fits the same answer fits here. The adjustments you made previously were from a specific point of view. It's time to go beyond, to start that work of dissolution of the character. Tear it apart. Removing his food. Because the character, well, if you give him a lot of things, a lot of sources of nurturing, he will prosper. But if you cut them almost all, and you leave a few ones there, he will survive. If you cut almost everything, it will still survive. Like a seed that rests in the soil, where the conditions are not there for it to sprout, the seed doesn't die, it stays there. And when the conditions change, the seed starts to sprout. This is how it happens. So that balance that you have achieved is not enough. You have to go beyond that. And like I said previously, intensify much more your spiritual practices. Understand that you need to dissolve, take the food out of that character. And most important than all, because there's a big limitation from what you can do from your mind, since your mind is the beacon of your illusion. Find guidance. For that, you need to make your process alive. Find guidance, surrender to it, give your life to that purpose only. And, well, everybody has this idea that things can go smooth. And they are smooth as long as you're not going against your illusion. As long as your illusion is still adapting. When you start really countering illusion, it will not be smooth. Illusion will be angry and it will come at you hard. So you need to go beyond that, much beyond that. Okay, so a question here. If it's possible, I'd like you to talk about how to overcome this tendency of seeking informations in all channels available, Facebook, YouTube, like it was insatiable hungry, and each time more conscious about it, and how this behavior intensified the state of anxiety, causing sometimes many confusion and others confirming what each and everyone says in different ways but means the same thing. Well, there's a first commentary in this. Many seekers, they don't really want to find something. They just want to look for it. That's the first point. Second point is, gathering tools all the time is a good way to pretend to be doing something, being entertained, and not really doing anything. Just keep on looking for things. But the most important aspect is, there is no surrender, and you're the master, you're in control. You're in control. So you are looking to the things that fit your narrative. You are choosing the teachings here and there because there's a conflict inside about the things that you know that you should be doing and the reasons why you're not doing. There's a conflict between these two, and this constant search is for arguments, for things that can feed both sides of this war and maintain it. And all of this is opposite to silence and real spiritual work. Plus you're flooding your mind with noise. And that noise prevents the deepening of your spiritual work. Informations. You can find all sorts of informations online. They can be all true, and they can be all false. Because it's not about the teaching in itself. It's about what you need. So there's nothing as an absolute teaching, a fits-all teaching. Eventually, either you reach the teaching which is important to you, and this can only be done either by accident, and if either you are seeing it, but it may not mean anything, but usually as it becomes more and more alive, and you are surrendering more and more, this it would make sense, teaching coming to you. But as long as you are in control, you're using the teachings as a tool, but you are the master. So you're still untouched, and the teachings you are choosing in some way are confirming and feeding your illusion. Even if making a lot of changes, external apparent changes, the inner core of your illusion is still being fed. And like that, you continue untouched. And those things are a source of noise to your mouth, to your mind. Continuous noise to your mind. And things for themselves, they mean nothing. The way you take them in, that's what makes the difference. Okay. Today is the day of bees. Let's see if there's something else here. Probably not. Yes, it seems she does. I think she's going to start a nest here. Okay. So whatever you are using your life, that's what's flourishing. So when your worldly life starts dissolving, disappearing, when everything is going wrong there, then your spiritual life has a possibility, has a chance. You're welcome. Whenever your worldly life is flourishing, well, your spiritual one is... The seeker of truth is the one that, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit all, it's not supposed to, dedicating his full life to liberation. And the one who is doing that in his present conditions, their conditions will change according to need and will direct him to a more suitable environment. But suitable environment doesn't mean according to your vision of suitable. The spiritual process, when it becomes alive, it has an intelligence of its own. And we'll finish like this today, this one. Okay, so next satsang will be Saturday, 9:30 in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Wait a minute, what is this here? I think it's still... No, doesn't glue. Okay. So, until then, make the best use of your time, make it real.